911, what's your emergency?
The following content is graphic, emotional, includes dark humor that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. These stories are based on real life EMS, military, and healthcare experiences. Calls are real, providers are real, names and details have been changed to protect privacy. They may be disturbing to some and are definitely inappropriate for HR department. Any medical or mental health discussion is personal experience, not protocol. Use your damn brain. Follow your local guidelines, and when in doubt, call med control. If you're struggling, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, a coworker, a friend, a therapist, or hell, reach out to me. I'll answer. Need help right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. Welcome back to Dysfunctional, the show where burnout is common, healing is messy, and humor is the unofficial treatment plan. Today's guest brings something different, but damn needed in the first responder world. She's a transformational coach, a spiritual mentor, and the creator of the Soul Path and the Four Bodies framework: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. Her mission: helping people break from burnout, people pleasing, survival mode, and the version of themselves that's been running on fumes for way too long. Gabriela, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. It's great being here.
So, for anyone meeting you for the first time, who is Gabriela, and what's the one thing you want the listeners to take away from this call today?
So, who am I? I am a phoenix. I constantly transform, and I've taken upon myself to be the guinea pig of many, many different methodologies and techniques, holistic and otherwise, plant medicine, you name it, I've done it. And I've put together a framework that really helped me, and it's helped my clients, and I hope to spread it across the world so it could help as many people as are open to starting the journey of healing.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So picture this: a woman who spent her whole life being the strong one, hyper independent, never asking for help, carrying everyone else's emotional weight like it's her job. One day her body taps out, burnout hits, anxiety hits, people pleasing hits a dead end. The life she built starts cracking under its own pressure, and instead of breaking down, she breaks open. That moment is where Gabriela's entire movement, Phoenix Medicine, was born, and that's where we're starting. So EMS folks are masters at abandoning themselves. We stuff feelings in the glove boxes. We ignore exhaustion like it's optional. We people please with our whole chest, partners, patients, hospitals, supervisors, until there's nothing left for us to give. Your soul, path, and four bodies framework hits this hard: physical, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Where do you see responders most disconnected, and how does burnout start long before we feel it?
Mm. Well, I think first responders and myself have a lot in common because, I'm Romanian. I wasn't born in the U.S. I'm a U.S. citizen now, and our culture is so that your elders are always right. You cannot contradict. You have to behave, and by behaving, I mean shutting down and like just stuffing down your emotions, never displaying any sort of anger, frustration, or anything like that, because that is unbecoming. So I think also, as being in customer service for quite some time in my own life, when I was young, and then as I was supporting myself in between jobs, the customer's always right, right? But really, are they? Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. And I think as a society in the US and just internationally, we are taught to suppress anger and frustration, and it's looked upon if you are expressing that emotion. And I think that's actually very healthy. Of course, doing it in a container that's safe for you and for those around you, but expressing emotions, even the quote unquote negative ones, is
Right.
extremely empowering and powerful. Because if we suppress them, that's where dis-ease begins, that's where sickness begins, that's where burnout begins. And yeah, we become emotionally and physically constipated because it affects our whole system, really, literally.
Right. I agree with that 100%. And I think the whole mythology or ideology behind you're weak if you get help type deal is needed to go away from. It's on the wayside. It's something that should not have really ever occurred. And it's something that we all need to figure out how to fix that stigma, how to overcome that stigma at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. And, my own healing, I didn't do it by myself. I had so many mentors, helpers, in this physical realm and beyond. You can't do it alone, right? Like, how do you raise a child? A village raises a child, right? It's the same concept. The community raises a child. You can't do it by yourself. So,
Very true. So, what's the hidden cost of constantly putting others first before yourself?
mm, well, a lot of negative self talk, a lot of when you don't fill your own cup, you are depleting your energy, right? So you end up running on empty. And then everything else you do takes a lot more energy. And so you're starting to build a deficit, and you continue to build a deficit until your physical body says, no more, I can't. Your nervous system gets burned out and you collapse. And you're going to have to break at some point because you can't run on adrenaline forever or on, oh, I'm going to do this one more thing for this one more person and then I'll rest. It doesn't work like that. We got to pour into our cups and put our oxygen mask first before we put it on the next person. Um, and it's supportive not just to that immediate person and to yourself, but to your whole community.
Right. And that stops the revolving door of ourselves, in my mind, of trapping ourselves into that whole keep going in circles, keep going in circles. It is once you get yourself in line, you can help others to be able to progress and treat others the proper way.
Absolutely.
So why do helpers always struggle to receive help?
Well, my framework stems from teaching others also how to love themselves and how to take care of themselves. Because if you've, let's say you had a single parent, right? You live in a single parent household, or you had one parent that was more absent than the other. You learn to self-soothe, and you learned to create and build control and around the other parent, making sure that that parent is happy, taken care of. And that's when you stopped really even caring about yourself, and even acknowledging that you need rest, that you need nourishment, that you need plug-in X, whatever that may be for you. And I believe that our beliefs and thus the life that we create get formed between the ages of 0 to 7. And then we run on this outdated programming and these beliefs that we created when we're young, and we're trying to figure out what anything means, what everything means, because we didn't have a point of reference to match it against. So if we learned early on that the world is scary and people are mean and people do not help us, then we became hyper independent and we took it upon ourselves to never need anyone, when, in fact, it's okay to need someone else, and it's okay to reach for help, and it's encouraged.
Right, very much so. And again, if you don't help yourself, you can't help others.
Absolutely.
So I know in your teachings you teach a lot about self betrayal. So what does that look like in high stress careers?
Mhm. It means suppressing anything and everything that your soul is trying to tell you, that your body's trying to tell you, that your emotional body is trying to tell you, and just running on autopilot. And it just doesn't end well. I've never seen that end well for anyone. Like, yes, you could absolutely do it for a short time. You could probably do it for a few years, but especially if you're a woman and you're a first responder, you also have to take into account your cycle, your life cycle, and the spike in hormones and how that affects your body. Because stress is, I think, it's the number one killer, and it's an epidemic. We're become constantly on. We all constantly have to be on. You know, technology is amazing and it's great. And if you don't set boundaries, you it could really take over your life, right? There's this
Yep.
instant, like constant need for connection and, you know, being responsive, especially as a first responder, right? Like you have to be respond right away all the time, be on. And I think that's extremely detrimental, and there needs to be some sort of balance in that
Right.
approach.
I agree 100%. Work life balance is not guaranteed in all jobs, but there should be a way to create it if possible.
Absolutely.
So, in your own life, what snapped and made you realize that everything was falling apart?
Well, I found myself numbing with shopping, food, alcohol, excuse me, and also TV. Like I was just not interested in life, and I was isolating, and yeah, and I realized that there's more to life than that. Luckily, I had a few good friends that pointed it out. And then I started getting help and really understanding that everything starts with me. How I feel inside is how my universe and my world is going to be. And I'm 100% responsible for what I create.
I love how you put that. That makes 100% of sense, and I actually like that. How you said you create your own universe, and just as we create our own universe, we create our own prisons in our own mind as well. In my opinion,
Absolutely. Yeah. But, you know, you can live heaven on earth or hell on earth, and you're 100% responsible for that. So, yeah, I think so.
very well put. So many responders live in survival mode for years, shift after shift, call after call, trauma after trauma, and eventually the body taps out. Your work is all about pulling people out of survival and back into sovereignty. What does that transformation look like in real life? And how do you help someone who says, I don't even know who I am without the job?
Mm. Well, you know, transformation takes 5,000 steps or a million steps. And then the last step is, you know, transforming from a worm to a butterfly. Nothing happens overnight. And I think the number one thing for anyone that doesn't know where to start is to start somewhere. Start with something. You know, if and I know that, you know, as the type of industry your listeners are in, it's so important to make sure that you're finding healthy outlets to release the trauma. Because if it keeps compounding, it's soul crushing. I know. And so having a system or a way to release it is so important. And one simple thing that you could do is breath work. There's a million different types of breath works out there. They're all free. You can look it up on YouTube and just choose one and do it for 5 minutes a day, and just like allow and help your nervous system relax. Um, that's one. And then also being cognizant of who you surround yourself with, because if you're surrounded by people that are negative or toxic, or, you know, they look at life, it's, oh, everything's going to hell, the world is ending, you're going to start believing that. And it's just going to be more stress and more toxicity that you're ingesting, right? When you talk about food, food is not the only thing that we ingest. We ingest information, energy from others and their perspectives. And just being cognizant of how you feel around certain people. Do they lift you up or do they drain you? Do you feel exhausted after hanging out with them? So those are a few places to start.
I love that, and you're very right. The energy around us is a big thing that a lot of us don't really realize until it's too late, or we don't honestly want to cognitively admit that it's wrong or there's something going on that we don't need to be around. You know, I think it was one of my very first guests. I don't remember exactly who, but as they said, without a good backbone or a good group of people around you, you're not going to be able to survive in the world.
100%.
So, what daily practice helps someone reconnect with themselves the fastest?
Oh, we always want the quick fix. It
What
depends,
kind of
right?
quick fix?
It depends. That reminds me of this meme that I see often. It's like, people want to be healthy, and you have a line of people for the pill. There's a line for the pill, and then there's a line for healthy lifestyle, and there's just one person there. That's kind of how that question made me feel. um, Honestly, starting with setting an intention for yourself, and then for this is some of the stuff that I do. Like, my mornings are sacred. They're my quiet time, and it's like when the world sleeps, and I get time to myself. So I'll either meditate or set an intention for how I want the day to begin, do some breath work, have my lemon water, and not really look at my phone or engage with any requests or any messages until a couple hours after I've woken up.
That's awesome. That's a great way to do it too. Like you said, the morning is a great way to time to do it, and a great place to do it too. If you're in your own home, or you know, even on the trucks for 24-hour shifts, if you have a break in time, just 5 minutes a day can help change your entire day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so important. If you get your mindset right in the beginning of the day, it really sets the tone for the rest of the day. And it's just tiny shifts that you get to do. And, if you don't have, an hour or two like I do, just even like going for a walk or, sitting quietly with your cup of coffee, having a little bit of time to yourself, it could go a long way.
Yeah, I think it was actually my wife that said this to me the other day. Without me time, there's no we time. So,
Exactly. You got to fill your cup first, always.
so why does burnout make decisions feel so impossible?
I think it's because our mental mind is the most active mind of all of our four bodies. It's what we lean into and our default. And when we're suppressing our emotions and we're suppressing our needs, we're suppressing our emotional body. And the mental body just takes over. But we gotta feed the emotional body too. We gotta allow it to release whatever emotions, whatever feelings it's experiencing, so that the mental body could quiet down a little bit.
Makes sense. So, responders follow rules, protocols, standard operating procedures, unspoken cultural expectations, but there are personal rules we learn growing up too, as you said earlier. Don't rock the boat, don't upset anyone, don't ask for help, don't show weakness, don't take up space. How do you help people recognize the rules they've been living under and start breaking the rules so they start healing?
Mm. Well, I think that applies to everyone.
It does.
First responders. Um, People don't usually see me until there's a problem or there's a block or there's a situation, right? So I think admitting there's a problem first, and then really drilling down into really what's going on, because limiting beliefs like you just mentioned can really like change your whole life. And it's it's really easy to let those things go once you have the right tools. It's amazing. I mean, after 12 years of my own journey, I'm so lucky and grateful for all the mentors and teachers I've had. There's so many techniques out there that work and they're quick. But the question is does the person want to let it go? Because if they want to hold on to it, there's nothing you could do for them, right? It's a personal choice. Everything's a choice, right? Choosing yourself over and over again every day.
That's one thing I learned from when my dad was in AA is you can't help someone if they don't want help. And it sounds weird, but AA's taught me a lot. I'm not an alcoholic, but it did teach me a lot about the first step is always acceptance and admittance, like you said. You have to admit you have a problem. You have to accept you have a problem.
And yeah, and the rest is easy, admitting you have a problem, releasing the problem, and then taking action into the behavior that you want to create for yourself and the belief that you want to manifest.
Right. So why do so many high performers feel guilty when they rest?
Because we're perpetually bombarded with media programming of doing, 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 and having our value related to how much we produce. And then that's again, it's another limiting belief. We have this mentality. It's like a collective mentality that if we don't produce, we're unvaluable or unlovable, and it's completely wrong and inaccurate. Really, it's another thing that's outdated, and we get to set boundaries and choose when we do what we need to do or what we want to do, and then do it well.
I gotcha. So has there ever been a rule that you had to break yourself to heal yourself?
Hmm. Yeah, all the time. I mean, I think, yeah, no, it's, you know, but there's a way to do it, right? Everything doing it with love, but also setting the railroads or the guardrails of how to interact with me. Um, when I am engaged with a client, it's all about setting the right framework, right? And not just for the client, but really with anyone in your day to day. It could be with your wife, it could be with the boss. Yes, they have authority over you, and you have sovereignty and authority over yourself, and you get to set the tone, with love, but
Right.
also firmness.
So how do people pleasers start setting boundaries without feeling selfish?
Mm. Quite, by doing it, by being clumsy at first. It took me a few years, and one of my hardest boundary relationship I had to create was with my mom, because I'm Eastern European, and we're taught to listen to our elders and to never contradict and be polite and all this, but then to our detriment because we become passive aggressive, angry at our parents, etc., and then avoid having a relationship with them. And I think having a conversation with whoever you want to set a boundary and saying, hey, like, I love you, and this is how what you're doing is making me feel, and would you consider doing it this other way, or would you consider not texting me at 2 a.m. in the morning or whatever the case may be, right? um, it starts small, but it's also, you got to get uncomfortable. You If you're not comfortable with confrontation, you got to get a little uncomfortable and then start with someone that, it's a simple boundary. It's a baby boundary. It's not a huge boundary of, you can't, like, someone raising their voice or becoming aggressive verbally or whatever the case may be. You start with something simple.
Right.
Yeah, and then build up. And, you know, if you truly value yourself and you want to build a connection with yourself, you're going to do it. It's going to feel weird and foreign and just uncomfortable. I'll admit it could be very uncomfortable in the beginning, but then you're building a muscle, right? And with each repetition, each time you set a new boundary, it becomes more and more natural and easy.
Makes sense. And as you said, always start simple. And I think that's key in everyday life. In all honesty, is if you keep it simple, you can build from the simplest to the hardest.
Yes. And then also always framing it in, this is how you could win with me. This is how we could thrive in our relationship or in our connection versus, putting up walls. It's not about putting up walls, it's about understanding where you begin and I end, and vice versa. And what feels good to both of us. So,
Very true. So, what is the first sign someone's finally reconnecting to their own truth?
they choose things that make them happy versus choosing what their parents wanted for them or their community, something that makes them happy and light up.
Yeah,
Even choosing to go to a spa versus a bar, or choosing to go for a walk or a hike, versus having fast food. It could be as little as that.
right. And as like you said earlier, the simplest things make the biggest differences in the end.
And consistency, right?
Right.
You don't have to do it every day, but can you do it 3 times out of the week? Can you do four?
Very true. So your message is all about rising wildly free, not the Instagram version, but the gritty, real version where you build a life rooted in truth instead of survival. How does someone start rebuilding their identity when they've spent years, maybe decades, being who the world needed instead of who they really are?
They start with accountability and ownership. Because, I mean, all the personalities or personas people build, they're based on two things: the need to be loved, and then the need for self preservation, right? So, realizing that the world is safe. The world is safe. All that you need to do is take the first step. And of course, use discernment because we have been given free will and also the power of thinking, right? Of cognition. So making sure that we are making the right call versus falling into old patterns and old behaviors.
Very well said. So, what does real alignment feel like in the body?
You feel at ease, you feel expansive, um, your nervous system is relaxed, and you feel connected all throughout the four bodies.
Gotcha. So, how do you help someone reconnect to the purpose after trauma?
I think it's important to allow the person to grieve whatever they lost. I think, you know, you can only start where the person's at, right? So it depends where they are on their journey. I think in this culture of fast, 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 and do, 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 we do not allow people enough time to grieve and to really process what has happened and to recognize it, acknowledge it, and give them healthy tools and options to express it. Like really give them the space to do it first, to go through that process because that that's their now, right? That's their now, right now. You cannot push them if they're not ready, right? So
Right.
once they've gone through the grieving process, they're starting to heal, then looking at what it is they really want, just exploring what are those options, right? And journaling is another great way to do it. Um, and then finding healthy habits and ways to support the mind, the body, the emotional body. It could be done very easily and inexpensively. It doesn't have to be crazy like retreats or what have you. There's always alternatives to that. I think the most important thing is if the person is willing to let it go and then change, because we could change in a minute, in an instant. It's just, again, it's a choice, right? Everything we do is a choice. We have free will. So
Right.
did
And
that
on
help?
that, it does. Yes, ma'am. And on that note, also, I know a lot of people don't really understand it, but everyone does heal at different intervals. Everyone has different time frames,
Absolutely.
the different understandings of what trauma they've went through, their own mental blocks that they may put into their brains to stop the pain, to stop the torture of their own selves in the end.
Yeah.
And as you said, the fast, 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 go, go, go doesn't always fit properly with the mental health of anybody, or the spiritual health or physical health of anybody, really. Um, so don't always try the fastest. Try the best for you, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, we're all unique. We have our unique DNA and makeup. So just listen to yourself. Learn to listen to your intuition because it's always been there. It's just been suppressed. So
Yes, ma'am. So, why do a lot of responders struggle with this prosperity or believing they deserve more?
it kind of goes back to the idea of if you don't produce, you're not worthy, right? And if you have that belief that you're not worthy, you're not enough, you don't deserve love, then that transpires in your whole life. Like the universe listens. So if that's your belief to the core, you're going to attract more and more instances of the same event because the universe wants to support you.
Right.
It wants to give you what you want. And if that's what you want, you know, so letting that go, there's an abundance of prosperity for everyone. It's just a matter of tapping into that frequency and tapping into that vibration. And also, it's important to know and to have that belief, to have the belief of I am worthy, I do deserve prosperity and abundance, and like actually believe it and live it. Because you could write all the affirmations that you want, but if your old programming from your childhood is, oh, I'm not enough, I don't deserve happiness, I don't deserve money or abundance or whatever the case may be, that's exactly what you're going to perpetuate over and over again.
Very well put. And that actually leads me to my next idea I wanted to put out there is for everyone out there who's thinking they're not worth enough or they're struggling to get help, you know, make sure you get help. The world is not a better place without anybody.
Absolutely.
So, Gabriella, thank you for all the powerful and powerful words and the honesty, a message this community desperately needs. Before we close, where can the listeners connect with you and access the Soul Check-in?
Oh, awesome. Thank you. You go to phoenixmedicine.me dash soul check-in and you can find it there. And I'm also there. You can find my social media. All my social media accounts are on there. You can follow me. I'm pretty active. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with anyone that is ready to take that next step.
It's amazing. So, what is one thing after this conversation that you want responders or even really any listener right now to carry with them after hearing this?
It's never too late to change and transform. And all you need is taking that first step, and then take the second step and the third step. And with each step, it's just going to get easier and easier. And please don't do it alone. Do it with a buddy, a friend. Reach out to a support system and get the support you need.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate everything. If you think it's too heavy to say it anyway. It beats a eulogy. You don't have to apologize for surviving however you can. You're not the reason things are heavy. You're the reason they're still moving. Need support right now? Reach out to me. Reach out to somebody. Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You're not alone. Not in this job. Not in this fight. Want to share your story or connect? Visit critical-run.com or message the Facebook page, Dispatched and Dysfunctional. We're building this for you, for them, for all of us.